speak. I think it's a little too close. Oh, I'm going to speak pretty loudly. You tell me when. You can hear me. Oh, okay, good. Well, when Robin asked me to speak again, I knew she was desperate. And I was a little reluctant. I said, Robin, why don't you think about it? You can probably find somebody else. And if you do, come back and you can disengage me. She never came back, so I guess I got the job by default. But when she told me what she was thinking of as a theme, I immediately knew what she was referencing. She said, I want the theme to be keep your fork. How many of you know the illustration? Keep your fork. The best is yet to come. Well, this is the illustration. I'll open with it so that you know what she was thinking, and then I used it as a springboard. There was a Christian lady who was diagnosed with a terminal illness and given only 3 months to live. And so she was getting her affairs in order, and she called her pastor over to discuss the details of her final wishes at her house. And she told him what she wanted sung at the funeral, and that she wanted to be buried with her Bible, and what her favorite scriptures were. And with everything in order, the pastor was about to leave. And suddenly the woman remembered something. She said, oh, wait a minute, there's one more thing. And there was urgency in her voice. She said, this is very important. When I'm in my casket, Pastor, I want a fork placed in my right hand. And he looked puzzled, like some of you do right now, like Mona Gay's face, like, why? And she said, well, they're going to ask why, and I want you to tell them what I'm about to share with you. I have been to church socials, potluck suppers for years. She must have been Baptist, we eat. And inevitably, at the end of the main course, when they would clear things away, someone would lean over and say, keep your fork, the best is yet to come. And she said, I knew that meant velvety chocolate cake or deep dish apple pie. The desserts was coming. And she said, so Pastor, when people are looking at me holding that fork and they ask that question, I want you to tell them why. The best is yet to come. And she said, he thought she has a better grasp of heaven than many Christians do. And sure enough, at her funeral, when the question was asked, he gave the answer. And those two words, the best, kind of got in my head. And the Lord just gave me about 4 things that I think fit that bill. Number 1, God gave his best. For God so loved the world that he gave what? Okay, that's his best. He gave his only begotten Son. Why? Because he so loved you, the world. And so he gave his best to you because you also are his best. You know, if there had been no one else, they say Christ would have died for you. You are the best of his creation. He made that clear because when the world was created, and I shared this with choir the other night, God spoke and the planets were created. He spoke the word and the sun and moon and stars, and he spoke in the earth and the night and the day and the sea and the fish and the fowl and animals. But when it was time to create man, he formed man from the dust of the earth. That involves the hands of God. If the illustration and the words mean anything, he personally formed man. And then he brought life by breathing his own breath into the nostrils of man. So you as a human being have been elevated from the beginning of creation and given dominion over the earth. God said, I'm going to give my best to you. But it's to make you the best. And God gave his best. It's evidenced all through the story. His first miracle was a wedding at Cana. You remember it. He went to begin his public ministry, which was only 3 years. And somewhere in the middle of the wedding feast, they ran out of wine. And so the servants came to Mary, his mother, and said, what do we do? And she said, go to Jesus. That's not a bad thing to do when we have a problem, is it? When you run out of most of anything, going to Jesus, sometimes the last thing we do should be the first. But Mary sent them and they went. He said, fill those jugs with water. They didn't question, they obeyed. And then the miracle took place. The water became wine, the first miracle of Jesus. But Scripture tells us this too, and I thought about it as I was thinking about those two words, the best. The people who were at the feast tasted it and said, oh my, this is the best wine. Normally people serve the best wine at the beginning of the party. They saved the best for last. So we come again to that, God giving his best. This probably is not appropriate, but I'm kind of known for that too. So it reminded me of a joke. There was a black minister who had fallen off the rails in ministry quite a while earlier. And he was in his car, and he was weaving and weaving in and out of the road, and a cop spotted him and pulled him over. And he said, sir, do you know you were weaving? No, so I didn't know I was weaving. He said, well, you were. Let me see your license. He takes his license, and he could smell that the man had been drinking. And so the cop says, have you been drinking? No, so I ain't been drinking. And he said, well, what is that beside you on the seat in that brown bag? This is just my holy water. He said, would you give it to me, please? He hands the holy water to the cop. Man, it's cheap wine. And he said, sir, this is not water, this is wine. Law, he done it again. Okay, so when God does it, it's his best. When man does it, sometimes we mess it up. But God gave his best, secondly, to make you your best. And we fight this sometimes. You know, you don't have to do anything to prove or to measure up to being God's treasure. You just are. When he breathed life into you, created you in the womb, he made you to be exactly what he wants you to be. And one thing we all are is different. And we need to celebrate that. I think we have a generation that tries too hard to be like everybody else. Facebook perfect. Wear the right clothes. Know the right people. Go to the... That's not who God created us to be. He made us unique and different for a reason. And he paid the greatest price, his son, for your uniqueness. So we need to celebrate that I am the best I can be. I don't have to be like anybody else. I don't need to copy or imitate or try to have the talents of somebody else. I don't have the talents and the abilities that some of you all do to decorate. You're gifted in that. God gave you that gift and that beauty to use uniquely. Others have other talents and gifts. I wonder if I could get, where's Vicki? Vicki, can I get you to help me with something? I got a souvenir in Italy. We were on a 12-day cruise and I broke my foot, so that's why I'm limping. This is a plate that I got at the Dollar Tree. Isn't it pretty? Hold it up. It's just $1. I got it at the Dollar Tree, and it's robin's blue, and I went and got a whole set of them. I thought they were so beautiful. Would you put on the corner of that table for me, right there where the food is? No, over on the food table. Save me a few steps. And this is another dish. It's not quite as pretty, is it? Kind of mottled and old, but this dish is pretty to me. I can't tell you what it was worth. I know it didn't come from the Dollar Tree. It came from my grandmother. My mother's mother was the only daughter of the only daughter, and I'm the only daughter. And my great aunt gave it to me because my grandmother died when I was 12. This is all I have from my grandmother. And it's precious to me. It's priceless. Its value is not in its beauty. Would you take that to the table too, please? But it would break my heart if anything happened to that, because it's all I have. That's why I didn't get you to do it. Vicki, did it feel differently carrying the two? Uh-huh. All right, would you explain what it felt like on that second dish? Here.
I was afraid I would trip and drop it.
I understand that, but why? Why did you handle it differently?
Because I knew you would be upset if I broke it.
Its value is sentimental to me. Thank you. And I would have forgiven you. It would have taken a while. You need to treat yourself not like Dollar Tree junk.